In the quiet town of Greer, South Carolina, the morning of October 13, 2021, started with an unsettling discovery. Christina Parcell, a 41-year-old veterinary technician, was found dead in her home after being brutally murdered. Her body was discovered by her fiancé, Bradley Post, who had become increasingly concerned when she failed to answer his calls. Upon entering the home, Post found a disturbing scene. Rose petals scattered across the floor and Christina's lifeless body lying in a pool of blood. He immediately called 911, but something about the situation felt off. Authorities noticed his strange behavior, including his attempt to delete photos from his phone before the police arrived, raising suspicions about his involvement. Christina, who had worked for over 3 years at Foothills Veterinary Hospital in Greenville, was well loved by her colleagues. Described as passionate about animal rescue, her co-workers were left devastated by her sudden death. The hospital, once filled with her warmth, now echoed with sorrow. Authorities soon confirmed that Christina had suffered multiple stab wounds, but there were no signs of forced entry, leading them to believe the killer was someone familiar with her. Despite initial investigations pointing toward an isolated incident, detectives couldn't help but notice strange details that deepen the mystery, including the rose petals scattered around the crime scene, which would later give the case its haunting name, the Rose Petal Murder. In the weeks following Christina's death, a major breakthrough came when investigators zeroed in on 29-year-old Zachary Hughes, a Juilliard-trained pianist. Hughes, who had been in contact with Christina's ex-husband, John Mello, was linked to the crime through physical evidence. As detectives delved deeper into Hughes's background, they discovered unsettling connections between him, Mello, and Christina. What appeared to be a random act of violence soon began to unravel as a carefully orchestrated conspiracy. Zachary Hughes's journey from a child piano prodigy to a suspect in a brutal murder was a winding one. Born in Luis Obispo, California in 1992, Zach was recognized early on for his musical talent. By high school, he had won first place at the Southeastern Piano Festival and went on to study at the prestigious Juilliard School in New York. His talent and ambition introduced him to various individuals from different walks of life, including John Mello, a 64-year-old Italian man with a troubled past. Zach and Mello met in 2020 after a chance encounter during one of Zach's performances. They quickly became friends, and over time, Zach learned about Mello's troubled relationship with Christina Parcell, his ex-wife and mother of his daughter. Mello confided in Zach, revealing his deep concerns about Christina's parenting and his desire to gain custody of their daughter. In September 2020, Mello took drastic measures by fleeing the country with his daughter, violating a U.S. court order. His actions, however, did not go unnoticed, and the authorities soon caught up with him, leading to his eventual arrest. By April 2021, with the situation becoming more dire, Mello reached out to Zach again. He was angry and upset that Christina, with the help of the FBI, had managed to locate him in Italy and was in the process of having their daughter returned to the U.S. Mello was certain that Christina was mistreating their daughter, and he was desperate to stop her. In his eyes, he saw no alternative but to take matters into his own hands. Zach, increasingly swept up in his friend's emotional turmoil, became convinced that something had to be done. He believed that Christina's death might be the only way to ensure the safety of the child. As the months passed, tensions between the two men escalated. By October 2021, Zachary Hughes was so entrenched in Mello's narrative that he took drastic and violent steps to fulfill what he believed was his duty to protect the child. He carried out the murder of Christina Parcell, stabbing her multiple times in her Greer home. The brutality of the act shocked the community and left law enforcement scrambling to piece together the motive. The case took a dark turn when investigators uncovered evidence linking Zach to the crime, including security footage, DNA samples, and thousands of messages exchanged between Zach and Mello. The investigation into Christina Parcell's death led to a swift arrest. Zachary Hughes was charged with murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and burglary, among other charges. While the prosecution built a case centered on premeditated murder, the defense team sought to argue that Zach had acted out of a misguided sense of duty. They claimed that he was trying to protect the child, believing that Christina was an abuser, even though no legal action had been taken to address his concerns. During his testimony, Zach explained that he had been convinced of Christina's abuse for months, particularly after witnessing interactions between her and her daughter. He recounted a pivotal moment when he decided that the only way to save the child was to kill Christina. He described the murder as a struggle with his own internal conflict, trying to overcome his hesitations and complete the act he thought was necessary. However, the defense's argument was ultimately rejected, and Zach's attempt to justify the killing was not accepted by the court. The prosecution's case was strengthened by overwhelming evidence, including DNA that connected Zach to the murder scene and surveillance footage, showing him leaving Christina's house after the crime. Despite the defense's efforts to introduce unverified evidence implicating Christina and her fiancé, Bradley Post, the judge ruled the information inadmissible. The jury was tasked with deciding whether Zach's actions were truly premeditated, and the evidence presented made it clear that his role in the murder was deliberate. In the end, Zachary Hughes was found guilty of murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and various harassment charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Meanwhile, John Mello was charged with solicitation to commit a felony and accessory to a felony, and he remained in custody awaiting trial. Bradley Post faced his own legal troubles, with charges related to pornography and harassment. The case left a lasting mark on the community, with the tragic death of Christina Parcell serving as a reminder of the consequences of unchecked obsession and the power of manipulation.